Woman donates kidney to stranger and falls in love, but his true identity shocks everyone. Hello, welcome, leave a like, subscribe, activate notifications, and enjoy this story. In a world where selflessness meets destiny, a compassionate nurse's decision to donate her kidney to a stranger sets in motion a chain of events that will challenge everything she thought she knew about love, forgiveness, and the intricate web of human connections. As she falls for the mysterious recipient, she'll soon discover that the past has a way of catching up with the present in the most astonishing ways. The bustling corridors of St. Mary's Hospital in downtown Chicago echoed with the familiar sounds of squeaking sneakers and beeping monitors. Amidst the controlled chaos, 32-year-old Emma Rodriguez moved with purpose, her dark curls bouncing slightly with each determined step. As a veteran nurse in the nephrology ward, she had seen her fair share of suffering, but today felt different. Emma paused outside room 42, taking a deep breath before entering. Inside, she found Mr. Thompson, a frail 68-year-old man whose kind eyes belied the pain etched across his face. "How are we feeling today, Mr. Thompson?" Emma asked, her voice warm and reassuring as she checked his vitals. "Oh, hanging in there," he replied with a weak smile. "Any news on the transplant list?" Emma's heart sank. She knew the harsh reality. Mr. Thompson's rare blood type meant he could be waiting for years. Years he didn't have. "Not yet, but we're not giving up hope," she said, squeezing his hand gently. As she left the room, a whirlwind of emotions swept through Emma. She had always prided herself on maintaining professional boundaries, but something about Mr. Thompson's situation struck a chord deep within her. Maybe it was the way he reminded her of her own father, who had passed away when she was just a teenager. Or perhaps it was the cumulative weight of watching so many patients suffer while waiting for a miracle. That evening, as Emma drove home to her modest apartment in Wicker Park, an idea began to take shape in her mind. It was crazy, unconventional, and potentially life-changing. But the more she thought about it, the more right it felt. The next morning, Emma marched into Dr. Patel's office, her heart racing but her resolve unshakable. "I want to donate my kidney," she blurted out before she could second-guess herself. Dr. Patel, a seasoned transplant surgeon, looked up from his paperwork, his eyebrows raised in surprise. "Emma, that's a very serious decision. Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Emma replied, her voice steady. "I know the risks, and I know it's unconventional for a healthcare worker to donate to a patient. But I can't stand by and watch people suffer when I have the power to help." Dr. Patel leaned back in his chair, studying Emma's determined face. "You know it wouldn't necessarily go to Mr. Thompson, right? We have to follow the transplant list protocol." Emma nodded. "I understand, and that's okay. Whoever needs it most should get it. I need to do this." As she left Dr. Patel's office, having set in motion the extensive screening process required for living donors, Emma felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. She had no idea how this decision would change her life, or whose life she might be saving. All she knew was that, for the first time in years, she felt like she was truly making a difference. Little did Emma know that her selfless act was about to entangle her in a web of destiny far more complex and astonishing than she could have ever imagined. As she walked down the hospital corridor, a flyer on the bulletin board caught her eye, a notice about an upcoming charity gala for organ donation awareness. Emma paused, a strange feeling of significance washing over her. Something told her that this gala would play a pivotal role in the journey she had just begun. With a deep breath, Emma stepped into the elevator, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the doors closed, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was closing one chapter of her life and opening another one filled with mystery, emotion, and revelations that would shake her to her very core. The weeks following Emma's decision flew by in a whirlwind of medical tests, psychological evaluations, and moments of self-reflection. As she sat in the hospital cafeteria, absently stirring her coffee, Emma couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and nervousness. "Earth to Emma," a voice called out, snapping her out of her reverie. She looked up to see her best friend and fellow nurse, Javier, sliding into the seat across from her. "Sorry, I was just thinking," Emma said, offering a weak smile. Javier's eyes softened with concern. "Having second thoughts about the donation?" Emma shook her head firmly. "No, not at all. It's just, I can't help but wonder who's going to receive it, you know? Will they be young, old, a parent, a child? Well, whoever they are, they're going to be damn lucky," Javier said, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "Not everyone would do what you're doing, Em." As they chatted, Dr. Patel approached their table, his face unreadable. "Emma, do you have a moment?" Feeling her heart skip a beat, Emma nodded and followed Dr. Patel to a quiet corner of the cafeteria. "We've completed all the necessary tests," he began, his voice low. "You're a perfect candidate for donation. However, there's something you should know." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "The recipient, it's not going to be Mr. Thompson." Emma felt a pang of disappointment, quickly followed by curiosity. "Who is it then?" "I can't disclose that information," Dr. Patel said gently, "but I can tell you that it's a man in his early 40s. He's been on the list for quite some time, and without this transplant, his prognosis is not good." Emma nodded, processing the information. She had known it might not be Mr. Thompson, but hearing it confirmed made it real. Still, the thought of potentially saving someone's life, anyone's life, filled her with purpose. "When's the surgery scheduled?" she asked, her voice steady. 2 weeks from today," Dr. Patel replied. "Emma, are you absolutely certain about this?" Emma met his gaze, her brown eyes filled with determination. "More than ever." As she left the cafeteria, Emma's phone buzzed with a text from her younger sister, Lily. "Hey sis, don't forget about Mom's birthday dinner tonight. Also, did you see the news about that big tech CEO who's in town?" Emma frowned, quickly typing back, "On my way now." "And no, what CEO?" Lily's response came quickly, "Some hotshot from Silicon Valley. Apparently, he's here for medical treatment or something. The paparazzi are going nuts trying to spot him." Emma shrugged, tucking her phone away. The lives of the rich and famous seemed a world away from the reality of the hospital corridors. That evening, as Emma sat around the dinner table with her mother and sister, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was on the cusp of monumental change. The chatter and laughter of her family washed over her, a comforting backdrop to the tumult of her thoughts. "Emma, Majida, you've barely touched your food," her mother observed, concern etched on her face. "Is everything okay at work?" Emma plastered on a smile, not quite ready to share her decision with her family. "Everything's fine, Mama. Just a bit tired. That's all." As the night wore on, Emma found herself on the balcony, gazing out at the Chicago skyline. The city lights twinkled like earthbound stars, each one representing a life, a story. Somewhere out there was the man who would receive her kidney, a stranger whose life was inexorably intertwined with hers, though they had never met. Little did Emma know that fate had set in motion a series of events that would not only change her life but challenge everything she thought she knew about love, forgiveness, and the intricate tapestry of human connections. As she stood there, lost in thought, she was oblivious to the fact that across the city, in a private suite at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, the recipient of her kidney was fighting his own battles that would soon become intertwined with her own in ways she could never have imagined. The cool night air carried with it a sense of anticipation, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter of Emma's story to unfold. As dawn broke over Chicago, casting a golden glow across the city's iconic skyline, a very different scene was unfolding in the penthouse suite of the Ritz-Carlton. Alexander Blackwood, 42-year-old tech mogul and CEO of Quantum Dynamics, stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, his steely gray eyes fixed on the horizon. Despite the opulence surrounding him, Alex's face was etched with worry and fatigue. "Mr. Blackwood, your 8 a.m. call with the board is in 10 minutes. His assistant, Rachel, reminded him as she entered the room. Alex nodded, his jaw clenching. "Thank you, Rachel." "And the other matter?" Rachel's voice softened. "Dr. Patel confirmed everything is on schedule for next week." Your identity is still confidential." A mix of relief and anxiety washed over Alex's face. 4 years, he had carefully cultivated his public image as the brilliant, unstoppable force behind America's fastest-growing tech company. The idea of the world discovering his vulnerability, his desperate need for a kidney transplant, filled him with dread. As he prepared for his video call, Alex's mind drifted to the anonymous donor who was about to save his life. Who were they? What motivated them to make such a sacrifice for a stranger? Meanwhile, across town, Emma was starting her shift at St. Mary's. As she changed into her scrubs, her colleague Maria burst into the locker room, practically buzzing with excitement. "Emma, did you hear? They say Alexander Blackwood is in Chicago," Maria exclaimed. "Can you imagine? The Alexander Blackwood, here in our city." Emma raised an eyebrow, recalling her sister's text from the other day. "The tech guy? What's the big deal?" Maria looked at her incredulously. "What's the big deal?" "Emma, he's only one of the most influential people in the world right now. Plus, he's gorgeous. There are rumors he's here for some secret medical treatment." Emma shrugged, her mind more focused on her upcoming surgery. "Well, I hope he finds whatever treatment he needs," she said diplomatically. As the day progressed, Emma found herself increasingly distracted. In just a week, she would be undergoing major surgery, giving a part of herself to a complete stranger. The weight of her decision was starting to sink in. During her lunch break, Emma decided to take a walk to clear her head. As she strolled through a nearby park, she noticed a man sitting alone on a bench, his head bowed. Something about his posture, the slump of his shoulders, spoke of a deep weariness that resonated with Emma. Without thinking, she approached him. "Excuse me, are you all right?" The man looked up, startled. For a moment, their eyes met his gray, hers brown, and Emma felt an inexplicable jolt of recognition, though she was certain she'd never seen him before. "I'm fine, thank you," he said, his voice low and slightly hoarse. "Just thinking." Emma nodded, understanding all too well. "Sometimes thinking can be the hardest thing to do," she said softly. "I hope whatever's on your mind gets easier." The man's lips quirked in a small, sad smile. "You're very kind. Thank you." As Emma walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that this brief encounter was somehow significant. Little did she know that the man on the bench was Alexander Blackwood, and that their lives were about to become inextricably linked. Back at the hospital, Emma threw herself into her work, trying to push away the growing anxiety about her surgery. As she was checking on Mr. Thompson, Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway, his face serious. "Emma, can I speak with you for a moment?" Stepping into the hallway, Emma felt her heart race. "Is everything okay? Has something changed with the donation?" Dr. Patel shook his head. "No, the donation is still on schedule. But there's something else. The hospital administration has some concerns about your decision to donate. They're worried about the ethical implications of a staff member donating to a patient." Emma felt a flash of anger. "But it's not going to one of my patients. And I've gone through all the proper channels." I know, Dr. Patel said, holding up a hand. "I'm on your side here, Emma. But they're insisting on a review. There's going to be a hearing tomorrow." As the reality of this new obstacle sank in, Emma felt a mix of frustration and determination. She had come too far to back down now. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them head-on. Little did she know that across the city, Alexander Blackwood was facing his own crisis of conscience, grappling with the decision to accept a kidney from an anonymous donor while keeping his condition a secret from the world. As night fell over Chicago, two strangers, soon to be bound by flesh and blood, pondered the twists of fate that had led them to this moment, unaware of the shocking revelations that lay just around the corner. The morning of the hospital ethics committee hearing dawned gray and drizzly, matching Emma's mood as she made her way through the hospital's administrative wing. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet hallway as she approached the conference room, her heart pounding with a mix of nervousness and determination. As she entered, Emma was met with a panel of stern-faced administrators and medical ethicists. Dr. Patel gave her a reassuring nod from his seat at the side of the room. Taking a deep breath, Emma sat down, ready to defend her decision. "Ms. Rodriguez," began Dr. Elaine Harper, the head of the Ethics Committee, "we've reviewed your case thoroughly. While we commend your altruism, we have concerns about the precedent this could set. Can you explain why you feel so strongly about going through with this donation?" Emma straightened in her chair, her voice steady as she spoke. "I became a nurse to help people, to make a difference. Every day I see patients suffering, waiting for a miracle. I have the power to be that miracle for someone. How can I not use that power?" The questioning continued for over an hour, with the committee probing every aspect of Emma's decision. As the hearing drew to a close, Dr. Harper leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. We'll deliberate and inform you of our decision within 24 hours." Meanwhile, across town, Alexander Blackwood was facing a crisis of his own. Seated in his luxurious hotel suite, he stared at the phone in his hand, his finger hovering over the send button. On the screen was a drafted press release, revealing to the world his medical condition and impending transplant. Mr. Blackwood, his PR manager, Jack, urged, "We need to get ahead of this. If the media finds out on their own, it could be disastrous for the company's image." Alex ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair, conflicted. "And what about the donor? Won't this put them under scrutiny too?" "We can keep their identity confidential," Jack assured him. "This is about controlling the narrative, showing your human side." Before Alex could respond, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Dr. Patel. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm afraid we've hit a snag with the transplant. The hospital ethics committee is reviewing the case. There's a chance they might not approve the donation." Alex felt the floor drop out from beneath him. After coming so close to a second chance at life, was it all about to slip away? As the day wore on, both Emma and Alex found themselves at crossroads, their fates intertwined in ways they couldn't yet comprehend. Emma paced her apartment, anxiously awaiting the committee's decision, while Alex grappled with the choice between maintaining his carefully crafted public image and taking control of his narrative. That evening, as a gentle rain fell over Chicago, Emma decided she needed some air. She found herself wandering to the same park where she had encountered the mysterious man on the bench. To her surprise, he was there again, his figure silhouetted against the misty twilight. This time it was he who spoke first. "We meet again," he said, a hint of a smile in his voice. Emma sat down beside him, feeling an inexplicable sense of comfort in his presence. "Rough day?" she asked, noticing the tension in his shoulders. He let out a dry chuckle. "You could say that. I'm facing a decision that could change everything." "Funny," Emma mused. "I'm in a similar boat." For a moment, they sat in companionable silence, two strangers united by the weight of their choices. Neither knew that the decision they were grappling with involved the other, nor could they have guessed at the shocking truth that was about to unravel both their lives. As they parted ways, the man turned to Emma. "I never got your name," he said. "Emma," she replied with a small smile. "And you?" He hesitated for a fraction of a second before answering, "Alex." As Emma walked home, her phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Patel. "Committee has reached a decision. Meeting tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Across the city, Alex Blackwood stared at his own phone, his finger finally pressing send on the press release that would change everything. Little did either of them know that their lives were about to collide in a way that would shock them both, challenging everything they thought they knew about fate, identity, and the power of human connection. As the night deepened, the city held its breath, waiting for the dawn that would bring revelations neither Emma nor Alex could have ever anticipated. The next morning, Chicago woke to a media frenzy. News outlets across the city blazed with headlines. Tech titan Alexander Blackwood reveals secret health battle. Emma, however, remained oblivious to the breaking news as she hurried through the hospital corridors, her mind focused solely on her impending meeting with the ethics committee. As she entered Dr. Patel's office, Emma was surprised to find him looking unusually tense. "Emma," Please sit down, he said, gesturing to a chair. Before we discuss the committee's decision, there's something you need to know. Emma's heart raced as Dr. Patel continued. The identity of your kidney recipient. It's become public knowledge. He paused, taking a deep breath. It's Alexander Blackwood. The name hit Emma like a thunderbolt. Her mind reeled, trying to process this information. The tech CEO? But how? Dr. Patel explained the situation, Blackwood's decision to go public, the media storm it had created, and the implications for their transplant procedure. As he spoke, Emma's thoughts drifted to the man in the park. Could it be? Emma, Dr. Patel's voice cut through her thoughts. The committee has approved the donation, but given the high-profile nature of the recipient, they're giving you one last chance to reconsider. The media attention will be intense. Emma sat in stunned silence for a moment, then squared her shoulders. My decision hasn't changed, she said firmly. If Mr. Blackwood needs this kidney, he'll have it. Across town, Alexander Blackwood was facing the consequences of his revelation. His hotel suite had become a fortress, besieged by reporters clamoring for more details. As he scrolled through the flood of messages on his phone, a mix of support, curiosity, and inevitable criticism, his mind kept returning to the kind-eyed nurse he'd met in the park. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was Rachel, his assistant, looking flustered. Mr. Blackwood, Dr. Patel is here to see you. He says it's urgent. Alex nodded, bracing himself for more complications. But nothing could have prepared him for what Dr. Patel was about to reveal. Mr. Blackwood, the doctor began, his voice grave. In light of recent events, I feel it's necessary to inform you about your donor. He paused, meeting Alex's eyes. She's a nurse at St. Mary's. Her name is Emma Rodriguez. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Alex processed this information. Emma, he whispered, the image of the woman from the park flooding his mind. It can't be. Dr. Patel continued, explaining the situation and the ethical considerations involved. But Alex was only half listening, his mind racing with the implications of this revelation. As the day progressed, both Emma and Alex found themselves at the center of a media whirlwind. News of the compassionate nurse donating to the tech billionaire had captured the public's imagination. Reporters camped outside Emma's apartment and St. Mary's Hospital, while social media exploded with opinions and speculation. Amidst the chaos, Emma received a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. AB. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized who it must be from. That evening, as the sun set over Lake Michigan, Emma made her way to a secluded spot along the lakeshore. There, silhouetted against the fading light, stood Alexander Blackwood, the man from the park, the tech mogul, and the recipient of her kidney. As their eyes met, a moment of recognition passed between them. The air crackled with unspoken words and emotions. Emma, Alex began, his voice thick with emotion. I don't even know where to start. Emma took a deep breath, steadying herself. I think we have a lot to talk about, Mr. Blackwood. As they stood there, facing each other on the shores of Lake Michigan, both Emma and Alex knew that their lives would never be the same. The truth was out, but the most shocking revelations were yet to come, revelations that would test the boundaries of coincidence, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately, redefine the meaning of connection and sacrifice. The Chicago skyline twinkled in the distance, a silent witness to the beginning of a journey that would captivate the nation and change two lives forever. As night fell, Emma and Alex began a conversation that would unravel secrets, confront past demons, and pave the way for an extraordinary future neither could have imagined. The cool breeze off Lake Michigan ruffled Emma's hair as she stood face to face with Alexander Blackwood, the man she'd met in the park, the tech mogul whose life she was about to save, and now, a figure that seemed to bridge her past and future in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. I don't know where to begin, Alex said, his voice low and tinged with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. What you're doing for me, it's beyond words. Emma shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. I didn't know it was you when I made the decision. I just knew someone needed help. As they began to talk, walking slowly along the lakeshore, their conversation flowed from the circumstances of their unique situation to their backgrounds, their motivations, and their fears. Emma spoke of her work at the hospital, her family, and what drove her to become a living donor. Alex opened up about the pressure of running a tech empire while hiding his declining health, and the relief of finally going public. As night deepened around them, Alex suddenly stopped, turning to face Emma. "There's something else you should know," he said, his voice hesitant. "Something that might sound impossible." Emma felt a shiver run down her spine that had nothing to do with the cool night air. "What is it?" Alex took a deep breath. 25 years ago, I was in a car accident. A bad one. I would have died if it wasn't for a good Samaritan who pulled me from the wreckage." He paused, his eyes searching Emma's face. "That Samaritan was your father, Emma." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Emma processed his words. My father?" she whispered, her mind reeling. "But how do you know?" "I've been searching for him for years. To thank him," Alex explained. "I only recently discovered his identity. When I learned your last name, I had my team do some digging. The timing, the location, it all fits." Emma felt her knees go weak, overwhelmed by the implications. Her father, who had passed away when she was a teenager, had saved the life of the man to whom she was now giving her kidney. The coincidence seemed too great to be mere chance. As they grappled with this shocking revelation, neither Emma nor Alex noticed the figure watching them from the shadows. A man with a camera, his telephoto lens trained on their emotional exchange. The next morning, Chicago awoke to sensational headlines. Kidney donor's shocking connection to tech billionaire revealed. The story of Emma's father saving Alex's life years ago spread like wildfire, capturing the public's imagination and adding a new layer of intrigue to their already compelling narrative. At St. Mary's Hospital, Emma found herself at the center of a media storm. Reporters clamored for interviews, colleagues looked at her with a mix of awe and curiosity, and even patients wanted to hear her story. Through it all, Emma struggled to maintain her focus on the upcoming surgery and the lives that hung in the balance. Meanwhile, Alex faced his own challenges. The board of Quantum Dynamics was in an uproar, concerned about how his health issues and this new publicity might affect the company. As he fielded calls and emergency meetings, Alex found his thoughts continually drifting to Emma and the incredible twist of fate that had brought them together. As the day of the surgery approached, both Emma and Alex found themselves grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. Gratitude, anxiety, and a growing sense of connection that neither could fully explain. The lines between donor and recipient, past and present, chance and destiny seemed to blur with each passing moment. On the eve of the surgery, Emma received an unexpected visitor at her apartment. It was her mother, Maria, her eyes brimming with tears. "Mi hija," she said, embracing Emma tightly. "Your father would be so proud of you." As they talked late into the night, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she was on the right path. Across the city, Alex stood at the window of his penthouse suite, looking out over the Chicago skyline. In his hand, he held a small, worn photograph, a reminder of the accident that had nearly claimed his life all those years ago. As he thought of Emma and the incredible journey that had led them to this point, he felt a surge of determination. This time, he wouldn't just survive. He would live fully and purposefully, honoring the second chance he'd been given. As dawn broke over Chicago, Emma and Alex prepared for the surgery that would physically connect them. But both knew that they were already bound by something far deeper, a thread of destiny that had been woven long ago, now pulling them inexorably toward a shared future neither could have imagined. Little did they know that the surgery was just the beginning. The true test of their connection, and the most shocking revelation of all, still lay ahead. The morning of the surgery dawned crisp and clear, a stark contrast to the tumult of emotions swirling within both Emma and Alex. St. Mary's Hospital buzzed with an air of anticipation, the staff acutely aware of the high-profile procedure about to take place. As Emma was being prepped for surgery, she felt a strange calm wash over her. Dr. Patel stopped by for a final check. "Are you ready, Emma?" he asked, his eyes kind but serious. Emma nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "More than ready, Dr. Patel. Let's do this." Meanwhile, in an adjacent prep room, Alex found himself uncharacteristically nervous. As a tech mogul, he was used to being in control, but today he was placing his life in the hands of others, particularly Emma's. Just before they were wheeled into their respective operating rooms, Emma and Alex were allowed a brief moment together. Their eyes met, conveying a depth of emotion that words couldn't express. "Thank you," Alex said simply, his voice thick with gratitude. Emma reached out, squeezing his hand. "See you on the other side," she replied with a reassuring smile. The surgeries proceeded smoothly, a testament to the skill of Dr. Patel and his team. Hours ticked by as the delicate procedure of transferring Emma's kidney to Alex was carried out with precision and care. Outside the operating room, a small crowd had gathered. Emma's mother and sister waited anxiously, comforted by Javier and other hospital staff. Representatives from Quantum Dynamics paced the hallways, their concern for their CEO evident. Even a few select members of the press lingered, eager for any updates on the high-profile transplant. As the surgeries concluded, a palpable sense of relief washed over the hospital. Dr. Patel emerged, his face tired but triumphant. "Both surgeries were successful," he announced to the waiting crowd. "Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Blackwood are in recovery and doing well." The news spread quickly, making headlines across the nation. The story of the compassionate nurse and the tech billionaire, already captivating, now took on an air of hope and inspiration. In the days that followed, as Emma and Alex recovered in adjacent private rooms, they found themselves growing closer. Their conversations, initially centered around their shared experience, began to deepen, touching on hopes, fears, and dreams. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the hospital window, Alex turned to Emma, his eyes serious. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice hesitant. "Something I discovered during my research into your father." Emma felt her heart skip a beat, sensing the weight of Alex's words. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex took a deep breath. "Your father, he didn't just save my life that night. He was the reason I was in that car in the first place." Emma's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I was a different person back then," Alex explained, his voice tinged with regret. "Reckless, angry at the world. That night, I had stolen a car, your father's car. He chased after me, trying to stop me. That's when the accident happened." The revelation hit Emma like a thunderbolt. Her mind reeled, trying to reconcile this new information with everything she thought she knew about her father, about Alex, about the circumstances that had brought them together. As the shock began to subside, Emma found herself facing a crossroads. The man she had given her kidney to, the man she had begun to care for deeply, had a connection to her father far more complex and troubling than she could have imagined. In that moment, as the Chicago skyline glowed golden in the late afternoon sun, Emma realized that the true test of her compassion and forgiveness was just beginning. The physical act of donating her kidney seemed almost simple compared to the emotional journey that lay ahead. As she looked at Alex, seeing the mixture of guilt, gratitude, and hope in his eyes, Emma knew that their story was far from over. The threads of their lives, already intricately woven, were about to become even more entangled. Little did either of them know that this revelation was just the beginning. As they stood on the precipice of a new chapter in their lives, fate had one more shocking twist in store, a truth that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. The weeks following Emma and Alex's surgeries were a whirlwind of recovery, reflection, and revelation. As they both regained their strength, the emotional weight of Alex's confession hung between them, a complex tangle of guilt, forgiveness, and unexpected connection. One crisp autumn morning, as leaves of gold and crimson drifted past the hospital windows, Emma found herself sitting beside Alex's bed, her mind still grappling with the truth about her father and the car accident. "I understand if you can't forgive me," Alex said softly, his eyes searching her face. "What I did. It changed both our lives in ways I never could have imagined." Emma took a deep breath, her voice steady as she replied, "Forgiveness isn't always easy, Alex, but my father believed in second chances. He proved that by saving your life that night, and I guess I proved it by giving you my kidney." As they talked, delving deeper into the past and its implications for their future, a nurse entered the room, a puzzled expression on her face. "Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Blackwood, there's someone here to see you both. He says he knows about the accident." Exchanging confused glances, Emma and Alex nodded, curiosity overriding their apprehension. Moments later, an elderly man in a worn jacket stepped into the room, his weathered face etched with lines of both sorrow and hope. "My name is Frank Delgado," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "I was there the night of the accident. I saw everything." As Frank's story unfolded, Emma and Alex listened in stunned silence. He revealed that he had been a homeless veteran, living on the streets near where the accident occurred. He had witnessed Alex stealing the car, seen Emma's father give chase, and watched in horror as the events unfolded. "But there's more," Frank continued, his eyes meeting Emma's. "Your father, he didn't just save the young man here. He saved me too. After the accident, he found me, got me help, set me on the path to turning my life around. I've been searching for a way to thank him ever since." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she realized the full extent of her father's compassion. Not just for Alex, but for a stranger in need. Alex, for his part, felt a renewed sense of the debt he owed, not just to Emma and her father, but to the ripple effect of kindness that had stemmed from that fateful night. As the three of them talked late into the evening, sharing stories and connecting dots, a sense of purpose began to crystallize. Alex, moved by the legacy of Emma's father and Frank's journey, made a decision that would alter the course of all their lives. "I want to honor your father's memory," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Not just with words, but with action. I'm going to use my resources, my company's technology, to create a foundation. We'll focus on healthcare access, support for veterans, second chances for those who've made mistakes. We'll call it the Rodriguez Delgado Foundation." Emma and Frank listened in awe as Alex outlined his vision, a plan that would touch countless lives and create a lasting legacy of compassion and redemption. In the days that followed, as news of the foundation spread, Emma found herself at the center of a media storm once again. But this time, the story was one of hope, of lives intertwined by fate and changed by choice. As Emma stood before a crowd at the foundation's launch event, Alex and Frank by her side, she felt a profound sense of coming full circle. The kidney she had donated had not just saved one life, but had set in motion a chain of events that would save many more. "My father always said that true strength lies in compassion," Emma began, her voice clear and strong. "In the ability to forgive, to offer second chances, to see the humanity in everyone. Today, we honor his memory not just by remembering his actions, but by continuing his work." As applause filled the room, Emma caught Alex's eye, seeing in his gaze a mixture of gratitude, admiration, and something deeper, a connection that had been forged through shared pain, redemption, and hope. Later that evening, as they stood on the balcony of the event venue, overlooking the Chicago skyline, Alex turned to Emma. "I never believed in fate," he said softly. "But now, I can't help but feel that everything, from that night years ago to this moment right now, was meant to bring us here." Emma smiled, her hand finding his. "Maybe it's not about fate," she replied. "Maybe it's about the choices we make, the ripples they create, and the courage to follow where they lead." As the city lights twinkled below them, Emma and Alex stood side by side, their lives forever changed by an unexpected journey of the heart. They had started as strangers, a compassionate nurse and a tech mogul in need, and emerged as partners in a mission greater than themselves. The story of Emma Rodriguez and Alexander Blackwood would be told for years to come, a tale of redemption, of lives saved and transformed, of the extraordinary power of compassion to heal not just bodies, but souls. And at its heart, a simple truth: that in the act of giving, we often receive the greatest gift of all, the chance to become the best versions of ourselves. As night fell over Chicago, Emma and Alex looked to the future, ready to write the next chapter of their intertwined lives, a chapter filled with purpose, hope, and the endless possibilities born from a single act of kindness. Thank you very much for listening to this story. Comment below what you thought of the ending and from which city you're listening to us. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, click on the next story that's appearing on your screen now. Leave your like and subscribe to our channel so we can build a huge community that shares inspiring stories together. See you soon.